So my name is Anthony Ndirangu, Research Director at Research 8020. And I'll be taking you through this exciting opinion poll that we were able to conduct. Just a quick introduction of why opinion polls are important. They are a crucial component of the modern democratic society. And the reason why they are conducted is because they help give insight on public sentiment and also helps shape policies, governance, and even how businesses are conducted. So the good thing about opinion polls is that they spark meaningful discussions about the current political landscape and public opinion. This particular study was done quantitatively using computer-assisted telephonic interviews. We targeted Kenya residents from each and every county across the country, and we managed to do 2,480 interviews. The study started on 1st of August and it ended on 12th. So we have, this study was analyzed by generation. So we have Gen Z. You've been hearing about Gen Z. Gen Z, as of 2024, are between the ages of 15 to 29. Gen Y, or millennials, are between the ages of 30 to 44. Gen X are between the ages of 45 to 59. And baby boomers, we consider them to be the ones above 60 years. Now, we juxtapose that against the national population, and they are currently, with their 11 million Gen Z, 6 million millennials, about 3 million Gen Xs, and about 2 million baby boomers. So the population pyramid kind of narrows towards the bottom. So we have more people who are younger than old. So currently, as we speak, 51% of the population is Gen Z. Then 27% millennials, 13% Gen X, and 9% are baby boomers. So the first question we asked is, in your own opinion, so you'll see that question appearing in every slide. In your own opinion, would you say the country is headed in the right or in the wrong direction? So these are the results countrywide. So 60%, the red part, said that the country is headed in the wrong direction. The 26% said it's headed in the right direction, and 14% were neither here nor there. They said it's neither in the right or the wrong direction. Further to that, we also now split the same analysis. So this is nationwide. So we asked amongst Gen Z, they said 61% said, again, not headed in the right direction. Among millennials, 58% not headed in the right direction. Among Gen Xs, the older generation, 63% said it's not headed in the right direction. And then amongst baby boomers, 57% said the country is not headed in the right direction. So you can see that there is almost a pessimistic outlook of the country, and there's a little hope of a positive outlook for the future. The next question we asked, what would you say are the most important issues affecting you that you would like addressed by? One, the county government. So they gave us a list. So from the list for counties, and this is what governors now should be, because governors are in charge of counties, they should look at addressing roads, unemployment, access to clean water, healthcare, quality of education, corruption and poor governance, and insecurity stroke crime. As for the national government, which now falls in the docket of the president, the Kenyans were hoping that the president would look into the high cost of living, which is also associated with the taxation, unemployment, corruption and poor governance, education systems, insecurity and crime, poor infrastructure, stroke roads, healthcare accessibility and quality. So by extension, it means even the cabinet secretaries that were appointed that fall into these dockets, like trade would go under employment, Minister of Education, Minister of Health, and Transport would be key people to look at, and the Kenyans would be looking at them to see how they will be performing. It's also key to note that amongst this list, things like affordable housing did not feature prominently. They were a little bit lower in terms of priority of what Kenyans wish that the national government should address. So only 2% of the national population talked about affordable housing. We also asked them, do you support the ongoing protests or mandamanos? Nationwide, 70% said, yes, we do support. And remember, this is poll that was done, barely a week old, so this is very recent. So nationwide, 70% support for the Mandamanos. We asked the Gen Zs, so 74% support the Mandamanos, the millennials 69% support the Mandamanos, Gen X 69, and boomers 58. So what you will notice is that the support for Mandamano declines with age. So the older the generation, the lesser the support for the Mandamano. But generally, it's more than 50%. So majority of the Kenyan population was supporting the Mandamano irrespective of age. However, from the analysis by county, we realized that there are some counties that had more than 50% who said they don't support the Mandamanos. And which counties were these? Number one was Baringo, then Mandera, Nandi, West Pokot, Tana River, Wajir, and then Uasin Gishu. So these particular counties were not for Mandamano. And these are 7 counties out of the 47. So the 40, majority of 40 support Mandamano and 7 are against the Mandamano. And most of these counties are mostly in Rift and Northeastern. We also asked the question of which political party do you feel closest to? And this was pointing towards the question of the Gen Z notion that they are partyless. So are they truly partyless? Let's see. No party, nationwide, 49% said they don't feel affiliated to any party. And this is because they do not feel that the political parties align with their values. That is 49%. When we broke that further into generation, you can see Gen Z are truly partyless. 56% said, I don't belong to any party. But as they get older, they start affiliating themselves with parties. So millennials, 46, then 44, then it drops to 40. Then you will realize the next line, which is Azimio, which is in blue, is performing marginally better than UDA. So there is support for Azimio at 26% against UDA at 21%. Then of course there is a small percentage of 5% who haven't decided which political party to join. Now, in 2022, we had about 8 million voters who did not participate in voting. So there was a question also about voter apathy, right? Where people felt, why do I need to participate in an election? Yet, I don't think my vote would make a difference. They've already decided and things like that. So we wanted to see whether that notion has changed, and it has. The answer is yes, it has. 87% of the population intends to vote come 2027. And this cuts across all generations. So 85% of Gen Z said we are going to vote. 88% millennials, we are going to vote. 87, in fact, the percentage keeps on getting higher. It starts at 85% from Gen Z, 88 to millennials, again 87 to Gen X, and baby boomers now 90% said, I think we should vote. And this is because Kenyans recognize the significant impact elected officials have on their lives, and they are more determined to influence who assumes leadership role. If presidential elections were to be held in Kenya today, who would you vote for? Just to gauge the current political temperature. Number one, at 59%, said they want someone new. They don't want the current crop. And they gave several names, and I'll be going through the names after this. But they said, we don't want the people we know now, we want somebody else. 15% said they would vote for William Ruto. 13% would vote for Fred Matiang'i. 7% would vote for Raila Odinga. 6% would vote for Kalonzo Musyoka. And 2% would vote for Wajakoya. The most interesting thing we found in this is that Fred Matiang'i has become more popular than more established politicians like Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. He's twice as popular as Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. So if elections are to be held today, assuming they don't pick somebody new, it will be a 2-horse race between William Ruto and Fred Matiang'i. So we split that data also by generation. So you can see the red is someone new. So the red is predominant across all generations. Everyone wants a new breed of politician. But you can see the yellow, which is William Ruto, 14%, 16, 16, 14. So Fred Matiang'i enjoys very, very high support amongst the Gen Z. but it declines now. It's 17% for Gen Z, 14% in millennials, then it drops to 7. Let's see. If an election was held today, what would the numbers look like? And this is how it would look like. So someone new, whoever it is, will get 11.2 million votes. William Ruto will get 2.7 million votes. Fred Matiang'i will get 2.6. Raila Odinga will get 1.2, and Kalonzo Musyoka will get 1. So the difference between the two horse race of Fred Matiang'i and the current president would just be 0.81. So they're almost similar in terms of popularity, with William Ruto being slightly ahead. And that, of course, that is being driven by the Gen Z who would prefer. So we also asked this someone new, who is it? So we got so many names. It was very fragmented. So those were the names that were mentioned, right? The names, there was Boniface Mwangi, Edwin Sifuna, Okia Mtata, Kasmuel, Uhuru Kenyatta, Jimmy Wanjigi, David Maraga, Fatma Achani, Bobby Owino, Ekuru Ekot, Rico Omondi, PLO Lumumba, Martha Karua, Kivutha Kibwana, and George Natembeya. However, 3 names featured very prominently, and the largest on this. Samuel Makore. So Uhuru Kenyatta had the most mentions, followed by Samuel Makore, and then Jimmy Wanjigi. So those 3 names featured prominently. Something else we also took note of is that when they talked of someone new, it didn't always imply that it's an unfamiliar figure. It was somebody, a new person, was a new candidate, was a well-known figure who is popular. But they picked, if you look at this list, you'll see that most of them come from people who are anti-establishment. So anyone who's popular and anti-establishment features on this list. All right. So we recently had our new cabinet formed, and the cabinet secretaries already took oath of office. So with that, since we had the list, we posed the list to Kenyans and asked them, do you approve the cabinet secretaries that have been appointed? So this is split into 3 specific slides. So in the first slide, we'll call that A, people who scored an A, are people who had 70% and above support from Kenyans. Then in the second slide, we will call B, we had 50 to 70%. Then C now are the ones who had less than majority, less than 50. So majority of the people do not support them. So let's look at the people who got A. Eric Muga was the most popular CS at 74%. Then Dorcas Oduor, the Attorney General, 72%. Margaret Dungu, 72%. Deborah Mulongo, 71%. Andrew Karanja, 70%. And then Beatrice Askul at 70%. So something that popped out for us when we analyzed this data is that you realize these are quote unquote the unknown appointees into cabinet. So the moment we posed the name and people didn't know, they automatically just had very high support. Then we come to the Bs, so people who are in the middle, between 50 and 69. So do you approve the following people who scored between 50 and 69? We have quite a number here, starting with Opio Andai at 67%, Rebecca Miano, 66%, John Buddy, 65%, Salim Vuria, 64%, Julius Bigosi, 63%, Kithure Kindiki, 62%, Alfred Mutua, 62%, Justin Muturi, 61%, Soipan Tuya, 61%, Hassan Joho, 58%, Wycliffe Oparanya, 57%, and Alice Wahome, 57%. So again, something that also popped out as far as this analysis was concerned is that we noticed all the opposition cabinets, all the members of opposition who are picked into cabinet actually feature in this list. So they're somewhere in the middle. They're not in A and they're not in C. So there is almost like a lukewarm and a cautious attitude from the public. It's almost like, let's wait and see whether you perform. So they're not liked too much. They're not hated. They're somewhere in the middle. Last but not least, are CSs with minority support, those who scored below 50%. So which means majority of the population or majority of Kenyans do not support them. Number 1, Musalia Mudavadi, 49%. Number 2 was Aden Duale, 48%. Davis Churchill at 43%. And at the bottom of the list was Kipchumba Murkomen with 42%. So this, again, if you look at this list, these are people who were brought from the previous cabinet, and it looks like Kenyans were not pleased by their appointment into the new cabinet. So these ones are the ones that scored the list. So the question that was posed is the one that you see at the top there. Do you support President William Ruto? Nationwide, 54% said no, I don't support the president. Then 15% said they're neutral, neither they don't like him, they don't hate him. And 31% said yes, I support. How does that look like as far as the generations are concerned? You'll see 59% Gen Z, strongly opposed, 56% amongst millennials. Then it drops for Gen X's at 48%. And then there's a split, even split amongst baby boomers of 41% yes and 41% no. So the younger generations are strongly opposed, whereas the older generation support the president. So same question was posed for the deputy president. Do you support the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua? So you can see again 49% said no, 17% were neutral, and 34% said yes. So most, again, majority of Kenyans are in the no. And this cuts across the generations. You can see 51%. So the Gen Z are very aggressive in saying no. So 51%, more than half said no. Millennials also 50% said no. That drops a bit to 41%. So there's an equal split here. The Gen X's are split, and the Boomers are also split. So 42 for the Boomers, 41 and 40 for the Gen X's. So we also asked the same question for Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. So for him, he enjoys 43%, 18% being neutral, and 39% saying that yes, they support him. So again, the Gen Zs 46% for Gen Zs say no, 42% for millennials say no, but the older generation kind of now turned the other way. So 43%, which are more than the no's, of Gen Xs say they support Musalia Mudavadi, and 47% of the boomers, which are also more than the people who said no, support. The boomers support and Gen Xs support, but millennials and Gen Z do not support the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Then we had more questions now asked for Raila Odinga. So the first question is the same. Do you support former Prime Minister Raila Odinga? So for Raila, the score was evenly split, the yes and the no, 41% and 41% yes and no. So we had 18% who were neutral. And then as you split this by the generations, so 47% of the Gen Z say no, 35 said yes, 38% said no for millennials. So there are more people who said yes amongst millennials. Gen X's was split again, 42 versus 42, but the boomers support Raila Odinga. So you have 55% saying yes amongst the boomers, and 33% saying no, we don't support Raila Odinga from the boomers. Odinga. So Raila Odinga is also vying for chairmanship of the African Union Commission. So we had a question we asked: do you support the chairmanship, the bid for Raila Odinga to be AUC chair? So 74%, an overwhelming majority, said yes, we support his bid to become Africa Union Commission chair. And if you look at the same data, again by generation, you will see he enjoys majority support amongst Gen Z, 74% amongst millennials, 73% amongst Gen X, and even a larger support amongst boomers. So you can see there's a strong cross-generation support, which reflects a patriotic approach for his bid to become AUC chair. So the population of Kenyans are looking at it. This is not a Kenyan versus Kenyan thing. It's Kenyan versus others. So they're taking a patriotic stand on this, and they're supporting his bid. We also asked, do you support Raila's supposed inclusion into government? 62% said no, they do not support Raila's supposed inclusion into government. And if you look again across the generations, 68% of Gen Z said no, 61% of millennials said no, 57% of Gen X said no, 53% of boomers say no. So everywhere it's more than 50%. Majority of Kenyans did not receive his perceived shift from opposition to government, and it was not well received and lacks support from all generations. Suppose was given an opportunity in the current situation in your county, would you recall your governor? So these are the counties that said yes, given the opportunity, we will recall our governor. And they were led by Laikipia at 71, an overwhelming majority at 71%, said they would impeach their governor, Joshua Irungu. Nyamira followed Amos Nyaribo at 70%, saying given the opportunity, they would impeach their governor. Then Garissa, Natif Jama would also be impeached. Benjamin Cheboy from Baringo is also at risk of losing his seat. Then Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja is also on the chopping board on this. Nandi, 63% also say they would impeach. So if you look at all this, they're all above 50%. So the majority of the people in that particular county say they would get rid of their governor given a chance. So the counties include Lamu at 62%, Meru at 61%, Kakamega at 59%, Kajiado at 58%, Bomet at 57%, Isiolo at 57%, Samburu at 55%, Kilifi at 54%, Uasin Gishu at 54%, Bungoma 53%, Nyandarua 53%, Nakuru 52%, Vihiga 52%, and the ones that are borderline are Kericho, Tana River, and West Pokot at 50%. Question now for recall for senators. We ask, given the current opportunity, given the opportunity and the current situation in your county, would you recall your current senator? So here there were fewer senators that were mentioned that would be impeached as compared to governors and all the other elected seats. So for this, we have West Pokot leading, Samuel Pogisio at 67%, Isiolo 64%, Dula Fatma Adan, Kajiado, Lenku Olekena, Kilifi, Nakuru, Marsabit, Narok, Trans Nzoia, and Laikipia would all recall their governor if the opportunity presented. Let's talk about women rep. Which women rep, which counties would get rid of their women rep? Baringo would be number 1, Florence Sagon. Isiolo, number 2, Tia Ali. Nyandarua would be number 3, Faith Wairimu. Kilifi, Bungoma. Vihiga, Nairobi, Esther Passaris, they will not retain her. Kajiado, Kericho, Nakuru, Nyamira, Mombasa, Kitui, Trans Nzoia, Machakos, Mandera, Bomet, and Nandi would be retained. So we have counties that actually featured in all 3 positions. So the ones that are here would get rid of their governor and their senator. That is Laikipia, West Pokot, Isiolo, Kajiado, Kilifi, and Nakuru. And then the ones that are here would get rid of all the elected leaders. So you'll see the same list that is down here, because these ones will get rid of governor and senator. So these ones will get rid of governor, senator, and the women rep. So Isiolo, Kajiado, Kilifi, and Nakuru are ready to send everyone home packing because they are not happy with the work that they are currently doing. And that